Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Finn had served as her anchor and safe harbor during the storms of her tumultuous life. Their love had endured betrayals, family feuds, and the never-ending drama of the Forrester Empire. This present, a custom-made watch with their initials interwoven, was more than a token. It was a pledge, a reminder of their partnership, established through adversity and success. Steffy imagined his smile and how his eyes would soften as he opened the box. She could almost hear his chuckle, a warm, uninhibited sound that made her feel like the only woman on the planet. But there was another secret, one Steffy had not intended to reveal so soon. She had sensed the subtle changes in her body, the gentle whispers of life growing within her. A pregnancy test confirmed it a few days earlier, and the news overwhelmed her with both excitement and trepidation. Finn didn't know yet. She wanted to tell him in person, to hold his hand and see the future in his eyes. A child, their child, would be a fresh start, a glimmer of optimism in an overburdened world. As Steffy drove through the familiar streets of Los Angeles, her thoughts turned to Luna, her cousin, who had been living at their beach house while she was gone. Luna was young, vivacious, and fiercely loyal, but she carried her own scars, the result of an unstable childhood. Steffy had always regarded her as a younger sister, someone to protect. She hadn't informed Luna about the pregnancy either, preferring Finn to be the first to know. But Luna would be overjoyed, Steffy reasoned, envisioning her cousin's wide-eyed enthusiasm. The beach home came into view, its glass windows catching the final rays of sun. Steffy parked, her hand gripping the velvet box. She took a deep breath, smoothed her hair, and went inside. The house was too quiet. There's no music or chatter, just the soft crash of waves outside. "Finn," she called, her voice booming through the broad area. No response. She placed down her purse, the box still in her hand, and walked toward the living room. That's when she noticed them. Finn stood near the window, his shadow set against the ocean. Luna stood beside him, her hand resting on his arm and her face turned up toward him. They didn't notice Steffy at first, since they were so caught up in the moment. The air shifted, heavy with intimacy, making Steffy's stomach churn. She froze, the velvet box slipping from her fingers and landing on the floor with a quiet thud. Luna turned first, her eyes widening. "Steffy," she gasped and stepped back from Finn. "You are back." "I didn't know." Finn turned around, his face blanched. "Steffy, this isn't what it looks like." However, it was. Steffy could tell by the way Luna's touch lingered for an extra second, the color on Finn's cheeks, and the unspoken words that hung between them. Her heart, which had been full of hope just moments before, fractured like thin glass. "What is this?" she inquired, her voice barely above a whisper. Luna stammered as her hands twisted together. "We were only talking, I swear." Finn walked forward, raising his hands to cross the gap between them. "I didn't mean for anything to happen. Steffy, please. This was a mistake. Just a second." "It didn't mean anything?" Steffy's voice broke, sharp and raw. "I've been gone for 3 weeks, Finn. 3 weeks of planning this." She pointed to the velvet box on the floor, its contents suddenly seeming frivolous and hollow. "So you're here with her?" Luna's eyes were filled with tears. "Steffy, I am very sorry. I never intended to hurt you. I just got caught up. Finn was there for me and I—" "Stop," Steffy interrupted, her eyes fixed on Finn. "You don't get to explain this away. Not you, not her." As Steffy's world collapsed, the room became smaller, with the walls closing in. She wanted to scream, run, and delete their image together. However, another truth pressed against her, begging to be heard. She placed a hand on her stomach, the secret she'd kept weighing heavily on her mind. "I was going to tell you tonight," she explained, her voice shaking but firm. "I am pregnant, Finn. I came home to surprise you and tell you we're having a kid." Finn's face crumpled with shock and shame. "Steffy, a baby?" He took a step toward her, but she backed away, raising her hand to stop him. Luna gasped, hands covering her lips. "Oh, God, Steffi, are you pregnant?" Her voice was a mix of wonder and terror, as if she understood the gravity of her treachery. "I did not know. I swear I didn't know." Steffi ignored her and focused on Finn. "I believed we were stronger than this. I thought you were different." "I am," Finn said, his voice quivering. "I love you, Steffi. This was a stupid, horrible error. I do not want to lose you. I don't want to lose us." But Steffi's heart was a hurricane, torn between love and treachery, optimism and despair. She reflected on the child growing inside her, a life connected to Finn and this moment. Can she forgive him? Could she trust him again? The velvet box lay abandoned on the floor, its promise now tarnished. Luna stepped forward, tears running over her cheeks. "Steffi, please. It is my fault. I was lonely. Finn was kind, but I crossed a boundary. Don't hate him. Hate me." Steffi shook her head, her own tears streaming. "I do not detest you, Luna. I am just sad. For all of us." She glanced at Finn, the man she had so fiercely loved, and felt a hollow aching where assurance once was. "I need time," she finally stated, her voice barely audible. "I need to understand what this means for me. For our kid." She turned and went away, leaving the velvet box behind, its engraving a silent reminder of a love that may never recover. The ocean screamed outside, oblivious to the anguish inside. Steffi drove into the night, her hand resting on her stomach, the last anchor she had. The future was unknown, like a thin thread connecting what was and what might never be. Luna sat on the couch, her face buried in her hands, the weight of her decisions crushing her. She had always adored Steffi, envied her strength and grace. Luna was up in foster homes, never feeling like she belonged. Steffi's family had provided her with a safe haven and a sense of belonging. But now, she'd ruptured that link, motivated by a momentary moment of weakness. Finn sagged his shoulders as he stood by the window, looking out over the ocean. He had let Steffi and himself down. The remorse was a real creature, tearing at his breast. He thought of the baby, their baby, and the life they'd imagined together. Could he fix it? Could he gain her trust again? The days after were a haze of stillness and sadness. Steffi slept in a hotel, ignoring Finn's calls, seeking room to breathe and reflect. Luna departed the beach house, unwilling to confront the devastation she had wrought. She composed Steffi a letter, pouring out her apologies and shame, but did not send it. What words could reverse the damage? Steffi strolled along the beach one evening, the sand cooling beneath her feet. The waters whispered truths she couldn't understand. She remembered her mother, Taylor, who had endured her own heartbreaks, and her grandmother, Stephanie, whose fortitude had built an empire. They had weathered treachery and rebuilt from the ashes.
Can she?
Her concentration had shifted to the infant, a flash of light in the darkness. She envisaged hugging her child and instilling in them love, resilience, and forgiveness. But forgiveness seemed far away, a faraway land she couldn't quite reach. Finn's face plagued her, and his voice echoed in her thoughts. She still loved him, despite everything, and that was the most terrible part. Weeks stretched into months. Steffi returned to the beach house, but it felt empty, without Finn's laughter. He had moved out, giving her the space she had requested. They saw each other at Forrester Creations, and their encounters were cordial but strained, a dance of unsaid pain. Luna had departed LA to seek forgiveness in a new city, her absence a quiet wound. Steffi sat on the balcony one evening, a blanket slung over her shoulders, her tummy barely visible. The velvet box sat on the table, untouched since that night. She traced the etching with her finger, the interwoven initials serving as a reminder of what they had been. She wasn't sure if she could forgive Finn, or if they could repair what had been broken. But she was certain she'd love their child intensely no matter what. The stars winked above her, unconcerned with her anguish. Steffi closed her eyes and let the ocean's beat relax her. Life would go on, as it always did, bringing her past the sorrow and toward an unknown future. The surprise she'd planned for Finn had evolved into something more, a bittersweet gift, a reminder that love, even when crushed, left echoes that last forever. This week on The Bold and the Beautiful, Bridget Forrester arrives at the Spencer mansion to do a paternity test on Luna Nozawa. Then she and the serial murderer had an interesting exchange, and Luna thanked Bridget for saving her life after the shooting before being led to prison. According to the internet, Luna and Bridget will be spending a lot more time together this fall. The Bold and the Beautiful's Bridget Forrester, Ashley Jones, and Dr. John Finnegan's Tanner Novlin stories continue to intertwine. Could there be a hot new hospital romance in the works? The Spencer family begins to pull levers to get the serial killer some medical attention while he is in prison. Will Katie Logan, Heather Tom, let her sister Bridget manage her son's Baba Mama's medical care? Obviously, Katie and Bill will want someone they trust to look after the pregnant prisoner, and Bridget is family. According to B&B spoilers, Bridget will continue to be present during Luna's pregnancy. She also has a tight relationship with Luna's biological father, John Finnegan. Bridget will most likely keep him updated on his unborn grandchild's progress and may give information regarding Luna's health while she is in prison. Finn has known Luna Nozawa is his daughter for several months, but has refused to build a relationship with her because of his wife. B&B spoilers suggest that may alter now that Luna is pregnant. Finn might even spend more time with Bridget to learn more about his biological daughter and what is going on with the baby. If Luna Nozawa develops problems, Bridget and Finn will have even more to connect over. According to Bold and the Beautiful teasers, Finn and Steffy's marriage is in peril now that Luna has resurfaced. Could sparks rise between him and his daughter's doctor, Bridget? Finn, with his warm hazel eyes and beguiling grin, had been her rock in the storms of life. He was the steady hand that steered her through the craziness of Forrester Creations, the family business that thrived on both drama and high fashion. But Finn had seemed aloof lately, his glance lingering elsewhere, his chuckle a touch forced. Steffy experienced it in the same way that one senses a storm approaching on a clear day. She couldn't say when it began, but the air between them had become heavy with unspoken words. Lee Finnegan, Finn's adopted mother, sat at her kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. Her face was carved with stress lines, revealing the weight of a secret she had kept for months. She had seen Finn with her and another lady, Clara, a nurse who worked alongside him at the hospital. Clara was youthful and vivacious, with a laugh that rang like wind chimes and a compassion that drew people in like moths to a flame. Lee had found them together one evening, their heads bowed low over a chart, their hands brushing for much too long to be coincidental. She hadn't said anything, hoping it was a fleeting moment, but the memory gnawed at her, like a splinter in her conscience. Steffy, unknowing of Clara's presence, attempted to bridge the widening chasm between herself and Finn. She prepared candlelit dinners, wore clothing he adored, and discussed their future, a family of 3, perhaps more. Finn's responses were brief, and his grins were strained. He was slipping away, and Steffy felt it in her bones, a slow, excruciating loss that no amount of love could heal. She confided in her mother, Taylor Hayes, whose life had been one of pain and endurance. Taylor listened, her eyes gentle and empathetic, but her advice was guarded. "Give him time, Steffy," she instructed. "He is under pressure at work. He loves you." Steffy knew that love might be as brittle as glass. She'd seen it break before, in her parents' marriage and in her own previous relationships. She wanted to believe in Finn and the vows they had made under a canopy of stars, but doubt crept in like a thief in the night. She started noticing the late nights at the hospital, the ignored texts, and how he avoided her gaze when she inquired about his day. The pregnancy, which she had intended to share with him in a time of delight, became a burden she bore alone, unsure whether it would bring them closer or push them apart. Meanwhile, Clara caused a whirlwind in Finn's life. She was everything Steffy wasn't: simple, unencumbered by the weight of a heritage like Forrester Creations. Clara provided Finn with a break at the hospital, where he worked long hours saving lives. She listened to his complaints, smiled at his jokes, and told him about her own basic but profound dreams: a small cottage by the sea, a garden full of wildflowers. Finn was drawn to Clara, not because he loved Steffy less, but because she offered the simplicity he craved, a life free of the drama that seemed to follow the Forresters like a shadow. Finn and Clara were alone in the hospital's break room one evening, as the city shone under a bruised purple sky. The air was heavy with the aroma of coffee and disinfectant, and the only sound was the hum of the fluorescent lights. Clara reached for a mug, her fingertips brushing against Finn's, and neither backed away. The moment dragged on, waited with promise, until Finn moved in, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that was both betrayal and confession. He drew back, his heart racing and shame filling his veins like freezing water. "I'm married," he muttered, as if saying it loudly might reverse what had already occurred. Clara's wide, regretful eyes matched his own. "I know," she replied softly. "I apologize." Unfortunately, they were unable to erase the line they had crossed. Finn drove home that night, the city lights blurred through the tears he refused to shed. He thought of Steffy, the life they had created, and the child she had no idea he knew about. He discovered the pregnancy test in the bathroom garbage, a silent proclamation of a future he didn't think he deserved. He wanted to tell her everything, to admit his vulnerability, but the words stayed in his throat like needles. How could he explain that he still loved her, that Clara was a mistake, a temporary distraction from the stresses of his life? Steffy, meantime, was disintegrating. She had begun to suspect an affair, but she had no idea who. She hired a private investigator, which felt like a betrayal of her own heart, but she did it out of desperation. A manila envelope with the investigator's report was delivered to her office at Forrester Creations. She opened it with quivering hands, holding her breath as she saw the images of Finn and Clara, their heads leaned together, their hands touching, and a kiss captured in grainy black and white. The universe shifted, and Steffy collapsed to the floor, the images scattering like leaves. Her heart ached not only for herself, but also for the child she was carrying, who would be born into an already fractured society.